Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast. My name is Barbara Thompson. Each week, I'll be bringing you a self-care expert or a message to help you to discover how to live your best life and understand your mind-body connection. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now, let the Studio Chat begin. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Studio Chat podcast. Today is episode 70. And I'm really excited to welcome back Ash. She is a kinesiologist, and I would love to almost say she's our resident kinesiologist expert on the Studio Chat podcast because this is her second time on the podcast. And the reason why I've asked her on is her episode from last time. So if you guys go back to episode 43 from November last year, it is the second most listened to episode that I have done on this podcast, and now we're up to 70 episodes. So Ash, I want to welcome you back to the Studio Chat podcast.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me. I feel so grateful that I'm able to do this again with you because I had so much fun last time.
Oh, I'm so grateful because I think there's a really, looking at the stats and the numbers from my end, there's a huge interest in this episode and like what you do. So one of the reasons why I wanted you back on here was because so many people have had an interest in kinesiology, and I think a lot of people still may not know what it is. So would you be able to give us a rundown in a kind of couple of sentences, if you can, what is kinesiology?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't remember how I described it in the first time that we spoke, but at its core, kinesiology is a natural modality that uses what we call muscle reflex testing to tap into your subconscious mind, into your energetic body, to clear stress. So a stress could be anything from, poor eating habits. It could be a poor relationship with money. It could be limiting beliefs about the self. And we just used your muscle, which is typically the arm, to muscle test to see when there is a stress. So that when I say muscle test, if the arm goes weak, then that shows that there's an imbalance between the conscious and the subconscious self. And if it holds strong, then that means that there's no stress within what we're testing for, balancing you to, and so forth.
So it's really interesting because I think it's a modality where people would stumble across it talking to a friend or talking to someone. I'm guessing that's already had it.
Yeah, that's how I found it. So I remember looking it up, and it was all these videos on YouTube of like literally like legs in the air, arms in the air, like just, it just looked weird. And I was like, oh, I don't want to look into that. And then it wasn't until a friend had said, oh, I went to see a kinesiologist. And I said, what is that? And she's like, I don't know. You just have to go and get it done. So that's literally like pretty much all of my clients, if they're word of mouth, they come in and they're like, my friend just said I have to come and you do something with my arm and then I feel better. So
that's pretty cool. And also for people listening to this, because I have a lot of listeners in Australia and New Zealand and the States actually, but I think mainly too for our New Zealand and Australian listeners or Australia, they can do it online with you as well, can't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure most of the listeners would have heard that saying that energy is infinite. So because it is a natural modality that we are working with energy, and that's either physical matter or matter that you can't actually see, so the metaphysical, we're still able to clear it through a screen. So I've got clients that are in, Jamaica, America, Canada, and they still receive the benefits of kinesiology. So it's really quite fascinating. My first session that I received of kinesiology was online, and I felt completely different. So
Same with me. My one and only one I've had with you was online, and that shifted a lot of stuff too. So I feel like someone's saying to me, you need another one. I just had this voice in my head, you need another one. Yes, I know I need another one.
Set that up offline.
Yeah. But that's to say to people, I think there's a lot of fear when there's, I guess when we think about self-care, we talk about mental wellness, people think of drinking water, supplementation, going to see the doctor, seeing a counselor or psychologist, moving their body, getting a good night's sleep, going into nature, possible chiropractic adjustments. I'm thinking of all the modalities. So people would kind of think of those as like self-care. and then your beautiful practice of what you do kind of puts the mind and the body together, and then the spiritual side too, right?
Yeah. So we work with what's called the triad of health. So that if you think of a triangle, you've got your physical, emotional, and mental. So one on each side. Some kinesiologists have it different where they have chemical, but I work with mental, emotional, physical, and in the middle you have your spiritual. So if one side of the triangle is out, so let's say with your physical, I don't know, you hurt your back, then that really starts to limit your thinking. So your mental then falls apart. And then the emotional side of that, like you'll start to really feel really low, really flat. I can't do anything anymore. And then you lose sight of the spiritual. So with kinesiology, we're actually looking beyond what you're presenting with. So when I say stress within the body, that's what we're clearing. We're looking at it as kind of like a multidimensional layered stress. So it's never just, oh, I've got the sore back. It's how did that back present? Like what was the lead up into that injury, into that pain? When did you start to feel it? What were the emotions under it? And then we go, it's just so layered that every session is different. Every kind of healing for each individual is different, because it also depends on how much they're wanting to open up, what they're willing to share, what they're willing to let go of. There's just, it's such a fascinating modality to practice, let alone as well as receive too.
That's what I love about it, because when people think about, if they're listening to this episode, obviously they're interested in kinesiology or wanting to find things to, we all want to live a good life. We all want to live as whatever a healthy, balanced life means to all of us is different. But I think if someone's listening to this, what I love about what you do is it goes to places where most people don't go into. And it's similar to what I do too. Sure, I'm a counselor, but I don't just work as a typical counselor. There's so much more to what I do than just asking the questions, because same with me, someone will come to see me for something, but it usually isn't about that something. It's about this, and I connect the dots. And so many times people have been like, oh my gosh, I've never thought of it that way, or I didn't, now it makes sense. And I love that you have that triangle that connects all of them, because so many of us, me included, try and do the whole triangle at once and get too overwhelmed, or just focus on one, and you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you're only trying to work out, the spiritual to me is still, I say new, but maybe I can't get away with that now. Maybe that's bullshit. 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, I think I would say spiritual. So I say I'm still newbie, but that middle of the triangle for me never, ever existed, ever. Yeah. So you can see with the triangle, most of us were just physical, or most of us don't do mental because we don't want to dig into it, because, I'd rather just keep pushing it down because it's easier that way. But talking about this stuff today really can have a safe space for people to, if we're in their ears, to just for them to contemplate, for them to go, this is a new thing. All of us do the same thing on repeat. Like it worked for us 10 years ago, it worked for us 5 years ago. We got the goal or we got the results, but now it's not working. So I'd love people to just listen to that and be like, if it's not working now, why don't you try something new? Try something that, again, this beautiful modality includes that full triangle.
Well, if I was to quote Bruce Lipton, he would probably say something like, just change the tape. So he kind of speaks about the subconscious as like a TV, and it has an antenna. So if you're constantly playing this tape of I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, you're sending that frequency out into the world. And what will tend to happen is you'll attract situations and circumstances that meet that frequency. And then that will then have an impact on what you're experiencing in your reality. So if you're never changing that tape and you're always being met with these same people, these same circumstances, this same similar environment, it comes to a point where people go, okay, well, most people, not everyone, some people will live with that throughout their whole life and just cop it on the chin and take it as it is. But I guess the message here is you can, and you absolutely can ask for support, which is something that kinesiology, what you do through counseling, in providing a different perspective to say, okay, well, what would life be like without it? Or what if we just changed the tape for a day and you just chose to live in the I am good enough frequency, and just see what you attract when you're in that. So, and you're so right about how people come in to see you and they start talking about, I guess, a problem or an issue that's in their life. And then it turns out to be something completely different. Like I had, if I can give an example, a woman in her 60s come to see me the other day, and she was quite frustrated and irritated with her husband. And through the muscle testing that we did, there was something else that was going on with her son, and her body just wanted to focus on her son. And she was like, no, but my husband, I'm so angry at him. I'm this, I'm that. I'm like, yeah, but he's literally just the mirror to show you what it is that you need to focus on with your son. Like, he's just an easier outlet because you know that there's love there and unconditional love, whereas you've never brought this up with your son, but your body is telling you that it's time. So it was quite fascinating for her to connect those dots. And even though there was so much resistance, the body then kind of softened, and she got off the table and she's like, I feel really, and this isn't to say that this happens every session, but she said, I feel really weird. Because when we're dealing with kind of deep-seated anger and long-held resentment, the body will start to shake, and it's not uncommon. It's such a normal reaction. And in that, you know, I pride myself that I take the time to sit with them and to just ground their energy before they get off the table, because I don't like to leave their nervous systems in that state. But it just goes to show that when you give someone that environment to kind of, yes, you can offload and you can share what's frustrating you at your conscious level. But when you have a practitioner like yourself and like me that has the ability to kind of, I look at it as like weaseling our way through. Like, we're kind of like, yeah, I'm hearing this, but I'm feeling this, and I'm looking at your body language, and there's something else that's underneath that you're not saying. But I really feel that if I keep pressing this, then you'll get to it yourself. So it's not like we're being suggestive and going, but what about your son? It's more like, how is there similarities? Like, what do you notice about this? And how about this? Have you looked over here? Have you shone a light there? So kinesiology, yes, it is the body work, and like, we're on the table, we're asking questions, we're giving you remedies. But I find that for me, I guess because I do focus on the talking quite a bit and assessing the energy and the body language from the beginning, that to me is where the gold is, to actually go, okay, this is what the body is wanting to focus on. It's not until we get up on the table that I have that confirmed.
Yeah, and I think talking, and most people are comfortable, even when they're uncomfortable, you'll get the start of the communication and rapport building from the person just by talking. And then when they feel more comfortable, that's when the body language signs, and that's when the feelings and all the other clever stuff that you know as a practitioner, but also the gifts that you have as an individual that makes it special, that's what it comes out, you know. With me, I'm like, and then, you know, it's kind of like talking to someone, and I see it as digging deeper without them knowing, and just going, yeah, and then what happened? And then what? And how did you feel? And then how did you feel then? And how did you feel then? And how did you feel then? And doing it also, I've got to learn to do it. I've learned to do it in a way where people aren't like, oh my God, shut up. Like, you do it in a way that they're answering and you're digging deeper, where most people would not dig deeper, because it is you've got to have, you and I are very similar, that we have the best intentions to help, like actually genuinely help people. And that's where it's a safe environment just to keep digging and digging. And that's where you get my body, my energy. I didn't know that was connected. Oh, I had no idea that I was feeling that.
Yeah. And it's not until the body, you know, because again, I know that you'll know this, and any other practitioners that are listening, the body, when it comes into a session, it can be in a heightened state. So through that just downtime of talking it out, and allowing the body to kind of come into a more relaxed state, that's where you'll be in the energy to find a solution for the problem. So it's not as if the practitioner is going, yeah, this is what you need to do. You're actually finding it for yourself. It's just through the help of the powerful questions and the digging, like you're saying, and creating that sense of safety, and that they're actually being listened to and understood, that then they go, oh, I actually can see how I can solve this, or what the actual problem within myself or within this whole situation actually is, and I'm ready to go there. Or maybe they're not ready to go there and they're like, oh, let's just kind of do something different, which is fine too, because not everyone's ready to delve into all the hard stuff.
And does it need to be hard? Even just coming to have an appointment with you and to talk about some stuff is a great first step. It doesn't, you don't have to dig deep or get too deep. I'm repeating myself, but straight away. And I think people listening to this, when you explain that beautiful story about the not being good enough, through the work I've done and my own personal therapy and journeying, I had no idea that that was a common human condition, I say, in a way. I thought it was a Barbara thing. Like, I really thought that I've never felt good enough. And you said that you keep attracting those same people. And I'm such a perfect example to use on this podcast as someone that, you know, the universe was like, I've talked about it before in many of my podcasts, that the universe, literally, whoever is up there would have been, for fuck's sake, she's still not getting it. Like, Barbara, like, it was just the same. I'm talking like 25 years, the same people, the same stuff, just turned up in different ways. And then it'll be, oh, the same person. And all based on, I was never good enough, mentally, emotionally, physically, just as a human being. I was so much in lack, and I'm no one special, and I'm not good enough. So deeply relate to that. And then when you said that, I had no idea through my learnings when a therapist said to me, oh, you know, that it's like from caveman days, part of it is a human condition to keep us safe. And when I did my own learning, I was like, are you kidding me? And then the books I read and the Oprah podcast, and when people like Oprah is like, oh, every day I wake up and don't feel good enough. It's just like a automatic, I guess, subconscious thing that we have to work to. Obviously you see it, but you just work through it, and you know that all of us have it. And I was like, oh.
And even you just mentioning Oprah, like, it's just so fascinating that someone at that level of excellence and in her field, she's well regarded and highly respected and has literally anything that you could ever ask for.
Yeah.
Doesn't disregard that emotion, that raw emotion of I'm not good enough, because there's always that deeply held belief from, you know, your formative years that will trip you up and be like, oh shit, there it is again. Or how is that still there? So it doesn't matter all the things you possess or all the things you accumulate. It doesn't matter, like, oh, when I get on that holiday, then I'll feel better. When I get that car, then I'll feel good enough. When I get that relationship, then it will prove that I'm worthy. Like, it's just not it. We need to do that level of work and that level of, I guess, pruning the inner landscape and tending to the garden and actually just tackling it day by day, I guess, and just finding those moments that you are good enough, or even just kind of asking yourself, how will I know when I am good enough?
All that thing that you just shared with us then, all that beautiful knowledge, and I just got covered in goosebumps. That whole conversation you just said to me, I just kept getting waves of goosebumps. And it's interesting because something I will share with people too, and I did have a conversation with a lady a couple of weeks ago about this, is for me it was all about what I attract in a relationship with a male energy, right? And I've always had a really strong type. And it wasn't until recently, I'm always learning new things, and I want to share this with people, that I could never understand why pretty much every relationship I've had, I've been cheated on. And I always used to take it down to, well, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not, the things like I'm not pretty enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not enough, right? I'm not good enough. And then I was actually weird. It was like a mirror moment where I was talking to someone and it felt like I was talking to little Barbara, and I use this beautiful example. It's like, look at the women of the world, like the Beyoncés or the J-Lo's or I was just trying to think of anyone in a generation that you look up to, that you inspire to, that they are successful businesswomen, that they aesthetically are beautiful and they're your dream body type or whatever. They get cheated on. So it's kind of like, oh, and for this woman that I was sharing this moment with, she was like, oh, you're actually really right, Barbara. And I was like, so that was kind of a 360 moment for me, was just like, I was battling for so many years of being, no one will find me attractive, or no one will think I'm good enough, because I don't think I'm good enough, but also no wonder they don't stay with me or cheat on me, because and it's so true, because that's what I was projecting out. So when we talk about part of the conversation you and I got to lean into now was about energy. And I would always read people's intuition and like I'd have a good intuition, but I'd read people's energy and I could never understand from a young age what that feeling was. And when your energy, I never thought I was good enough. And I know a lot of women that are listening to this can relate to this right now. And what happens is when you don't feel good enough in your energy, you attract what you've got in you. I know you'll have a better way of saying this, Ash, than me. But what you attract within you. So I don't think I'm good enough. So I'm going to attract not good enough to me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a quote, if you haven't heard of him, Dr. John Demartini, and he says, your innermost dominant thoughts become your outermost tangible reality. And it's just so true. So if you have a day, like the best way I can explain this is if you think about when you're on the road and you're in traffic, and if your innermost dominant thought is, oh, I have to get somewhere, like I'm frustrated, like I just want to weave past everyone and get there, you'll be in rage, like you'll just want to get there. But if you look to the car next to you, they don't have anywhere to go, they're calm, they're in the same exact situation, but they're emitting a different energy, they're emitting a different frequency. So the person that will be weaving through the traffic will probably get stopped, whereas the energy of the person that's calm and just like, I'll get there when I get there, they'll probably be in the lane that goes the fastest. So when you're talking about like this internal dialogue of, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, people always cheat on me, if that is on a loop within our brain and our mind, that is something that we're like, it's literally like you have a TV screen in your mind every single day, and that's what you're watching. So if that's what you're subjected to every single day, then that's all that you will see in your reality, because your what's called your RAS, so your reticular activating system,
I like the sound of that. Your what?
Your RAS, so RAS, your reticular activating system. The way that it works is, if I use another example, if you think about like you're just about to buy a new car, let's say it's a Toyota RAV4, and you put down the deposit and you're like, yeah, can't wait to get it. The next time you go out on the road, your RAS will identify every single Toyota RAV4 that's on the road. And you'll be like, I saw so many RAV4s today, but it's only because you've secured that in your mind that that's something that you will focus on, that your reticular activating system will then go, okay, well, now we'll let you see it. Yeah. Whereas before it probably wasn't even there. So we're constantly in this kind of zone of, okay, these are my thoughts. And then your energy, so the thing that's outside of you, will go, okay, how do we filter everything that's like we don't need to see and put in to match what those thoughts are? So if you were to walk around and be in the energy of like a queen or an empress or Beyonce, for example, you'd be standing tall, your physiology would change, your whole stance would be like, yeah, I'm in my power. You would notice people looking at you. You would notice that people will compliment you. You will notice that someone holds the door open for you, or you get a smile from someone. Whereas if you weren't in that, your head would be down, your shoulders are slumped, you're walking, you just want to get to where you're going. You don't notice those things. They're probably still there, but your RAS has gone, nah, you're down in the dump, so let's focus on that.
Wow. Yeah. And if anyone is listening to, there's a power pose or something, that if anyone's listening to this, I want you to stand up tall and I want you to put your hands on your hips. And especially for us females that, do have boobs, we don't normally put our shoulders back, because as soon as you put your shoulders back, your boobs stick out, right? And most women are like, ugh. But I want someone, if you're listening to this now, try that. Stand up or sit tall in your chair, put your shoulders back and put your head up high and just see how that feels.
Yeah, there's something in NLP that's called the circle of excellence, very similar to that. So it's basically like you just move where you're sitting, standing, and you imagine that there's like a ring of whatever your favorite color is. Like I tend to go with like an opal kind of look, and you just close your eyes and you envision that there's just a circle on the floor with that opal. And as soon as you step into that, that's where you're powerful. That's where you're empowered. You like hear applause. Everyone's like cheering for you. And then you step back out of it and you're like, oh, that feels different. And then you go back in. So it's just kind of getting your physical body, your energy body, just to feel the difference that you can create that change so rapidly. So that power pose, like I call it Wonder Woman.
Yeah, yes.
And that is actually like, you compare that with an affirmation, or you compare that with a memory where you felt so powerful. And what your, again, your neurology, your physiology will do is be like, yes, we can match that and we can maintain that and we can keep being in that energy for the day. So it's a choice.
Yeah. And I know anyone listening to this, like for many years, I didn't know any of this stuff. So it's not until you read something on the internet, you may see a post from Asherai, or you may find an article, like anything that you read and you go, oh, that sparks interest. And then you start going down this hole of, rabbit hole of energy and not feeling good enough and all this body healing stuff. It's just absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Because you can change it. And I know a lot of people listening to this don't feel good enough. So if someone's listening to this and they're going, yeah, I fit into that camp, Barbara. I don't like myself, or I don't feel good enough, or I always want to people please, and I can't live life how I want to do. So I've got to do everything for the kids or the husband or the family or the obligations at work. Well, how would kinesiology help someone like that?
That's feeling a bit unfulfilled. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I would almost actually, I'd probably be a bit clearer in asking you the question. As in, okay, so I guess a common thing that when you keep doing the same thing over and over again, or you have a feeling of being not fulfilled, and you feel like I'm not good enough, or I'm not living my life to purpose, really. I guess that's kind of what it's leading to. I think that's a common thing at the moment, of people feeling stuck, or what am I doing here? And that's why I probably wasn't clear enough in the question, because it can be really closely linked to your needs, not feeling good enough, people pleasing, and not doing things to serve yourself. So how could kinesiology help someone that is like, I'm stuck, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't feel good enough?
Yeah. Well, I guess I can speak for kinesiology, where it helps you to shift awareness and to actually start to listen to what the true stressor is that your body is holding. So for an example of like, if we keep following that I'm not good enough, because like you said, a lot of your listeners, any listener, any woman, man, whatever it is, can resonate with that to some degree. And one of the things that I kind of draw people's attention to, if they are feeling that, there's generally a sense of comparison. So they're either putting, they're making themselves inferior, and they're putting someone up high on a pedestal. So they're like, well, I'm not good enough because I'm not like them, or I'm not good enough because, you're telling me to do Wonder Woman and think of Oprah and Beyonce, but I'm not like them. I don't have what they have. And something that, again, like John Demartini says, is if you do an exercise that's called Traits of the Greats, and what he kind of speaks about is we hold every single trait in human existence, and Beyonce holds the same traits as you hold, she just uses them differently. So if you look up to someone and you're putting them up on a pedestal, you have every single trait that they have. You're just not in that kind of mentality of using it in the way that they have. And nor should you, because everyone has a different strategy. So your confidence could be a quieter confidence, as opposed to, I keep using Beyonce because she's front of mind at the moment, but your confidence could be that, I don't know, instead of getting up on stage and speaking to 100 people, your confidence is sharing a really beautiful meal at the family table and being able to speak and have really genuine, beautiful conversations. Like that could be your confidence. But people look and feel that this is not good enough because they're going, oh, but I'm not like them. Of course you're not. You're not meant to be like them. No one's meant to be like anyone other than yourself. So for someone to come in with something like that, with kinesiology, we can actually kind of trace it back. So we do what's called age recess, and we use the muscle to check to see, okay, where did this belief start? Like, where did we start to really kind of feel not good enough? And something could come up, age 8, and in the playground, someone didn't want to play with you. That it could be as simple as that. And obviously that's them to remember. And a lot of people will be like, oh, but I don't remember my childhood. You will be amazed at what comes up when your body is in a state of calm, because it's not just saying, okay, age 8, what do you think of? People will immediately go, I don't know. And that's then my role to go, okay, well, let's ask the body what remedies it needs to bring this memory forward. Because it's kind of like we've just got it, like it's like a little rabbit in a little corner. We're just getting a carrot and we're like, yep, come forward, come forward, come forward. Now you can land. And I'll use something, well, it depends what the body wants, but usually it's an essential oil, because typically with essential oils in aromatherapy, they actually activate the hippocampus, which is where we store all our memories. So if they smell something, for instance, let's say eucalyptus, they'll think of, oh, that's like that eucalyptus rub that my mum would have put on me when I'm sick. So immediately we go beyond that. Like, what did you feel when that was happening? Oh, I felt nurtured. I felt cared for. I felt supported. So in that moment, they go, oh, crap, at age 8, I was left out. I didn't feel nurtured. I didn't feel cared for. I didn't feel supported. So it's kind of like I explain to people, I'm kind of like Sherlock Holmes, where I'm not going to take that as an answer because I'm going to keep digging and we will get there, but it's up to you to kind of be willing and to be open enough to say, oh, okay, I remember now why I first started to not feel good enough, because people didn't want to play with me in the playground. And then that started, then I got bullied, and then this happened and this happened. So again, we kind of come back to that TV screen of saying, well, that was a belief that was formed at a very young age. And then that kind of dictated how you then communicated yourself through friendships and how you attracted relationships, and bang, 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 bang. So it can be, and it sounds like it's a lot, but that happens within the space of 2 minutes in a session. Yeah. So it's a quick modality. It gets a lot done really quickly. Like I've had so many people who have had, years of and this is not to disregard what psychologists and psychotherapists do, but they've come and they've had one session. They've gone, oh my God, I've just done like 10 years of healing in one session. So and that depends on the person. It's again comes back to your willingness of how far you want to go.
Yeah. And also that therapy that they've done has probably opened them up to be in that place too, even though they say, oh gosh, I've done so XYZ amount of this and now this is opened up in one session. It's like maybe those sessions got you to this point to open up. So you never really know. But I think this kind of stuff is just so powerful, because when do we get a moment to sit still? Most people do not want to meditate. Most people can't sit with their own selves or their own thoughts because they're too worried about what will come up, or I don't have the tools to deal with it. I don't have time for it. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. So doing something like this is a great way in a safe environment that nothing bad is going to happen to you. Absolutely, it feels scary and there's a lot of fear because it's new, but I can promise you it's not scary, if that makes sense. So if you're someone that wants to take care of your mind and your body, and you're at a point in your life where I keep doing the same thing, but I want different results, or I don't know what my purpose is, or I feel stuck, or I keep attracting the same people, or I want to learn. Also, I think from my perspective, it's like, oh, I want to learn more about myself. Like, how could someone not want to know more about themselves?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that a cool thing to do, is to learn about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people, I guess because we've been thinking a certain way for so long, we just think that's it. That's it for us. Like, that's the only way I'll ever be able to think. And we forget that we are our own healers. We are the only ones that are going to be able to shift that thinking. And, people like yourself, physios, chiros, kinesiologists, coaches, they are merely just people that can help you to get back on the right path. They're not the ones going, hey, do this, try this. If you don't do this, then it's not going to work. Like it's I guess the person's choice of, well, I'm directed here, I want to get this type of healing, but then it's up to me to then follow through with that. And it's up to me to then heal that part of me. So again, like if people are feeling scared or not wanting to try it, be curious about that and ask yourself, why would that be? Has there been previous experiences in the past that, or is the trauma too deep and too hard to kind of navigate through? it makes such a difference if you're with a practitioner that takes their time, doesn't force you to do anything, and actually creates, like you said, that rapport to make you feel safe enough to go at your own pace. And, you know, I mean, sometimes I'll say to people, if we're coming up against the same kind of limiting beliefs or the same stresses, I'll turn to them and I'll say, you know, do you need tough love, Ash, or do you need warm and cuddly today? And 9 times out of 10, they'll go tough love. And that's where we go, okay, hit it on the head and let's actually find out why we keep coming up to this same kind of result.
I just want people listening to this, it's more powerful than what you'd ever know, but until you try it, you just don't know. And I'm someone that had never heard of any of this stuff, and it changed my life in a way that the more you learn about yourself, the more you learn where your thoughts come from, knowing that your blueprint and what you do in life has come from the first 7 years of your life. And that's like the computer shuts off when you turn 7, and that's it. That's all your beliefs and your values, how you fold a towel, how you, I don't know, like all the kind of things that you do in life has been, you're a sponge, you've watched it on TV, you've seen it in a magazine, you went to a friend's house and saw what, like, it's all learned behavior. And then after about 7 or 8 years old, it's like there's a concrete block that's no more new stuff's coming in, and you're just going to repeat the same stuff. And I want to give people the awareness that how cool is it to, you know, get to a point in your life where that stuff isn't working for you anymore, which means, oh my God, you've got this whole, like, look at what Ash does. You've got this whole other area of life that most people do not even know about. And it's not scary. And I want to take the fear out of it, that our body can heal itself. But one thing that I saw in your Instagram recently that you put on there is no choice is ever wrong. Yeah. And that freaks me out because I'm not a perfectionist. You know, I'm quite glad I'm not. I like things to be done well, but I'm not OCD or I'm not perfectionist or anything. But I know people, any big decisions in life, we want to make sure that we make the right decision for us.
Yeah. And you know, what's the definition of right? Like, how do you know that it's right compared to how do you know that it's wrong? So I know that when I did that video, there was not pushback or anything, but a lot of people maybe messaged me, and they it was challenging for them to hear, because, you know, some people would be and I say this with love, you know, in abusive relationships, or they would have gone down paths of drug or addiction or anything like that, and they think, well, that choice was wrong, you know, I should never have done that, blah 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 blah. But my challenge to that is, but what did you gain from that experience? So yes, there may have been an abusive relationship, but that may have made your boundaries so much stronger, which you may not have been able to do outside of that. It may have made your respect for yourself known, like you'll be able to, like you'll have the awareness now to spot that behavior from a mile away. So like I firmly believe that no choice is ever wrong. It will teach you very, very valuable lessons. But again, what's wrong and what's right, we don't know that.
That's very black and white thinking, isn't it? It comes from, again, a lot of people that have been brought up that I hear it a lot. I don't know if you hear it a lot from women, but women not bragging, but I'm very OCD, or I'm very perfection. I have to have my house all perfect and stuff. And it's like, that's all good and well. It shows you've got pride and you care about things, but that can really derail someone's life. It ruins marriages. It ruins people's self-belief. It ruins their stress management, their thoughts. It overtakes their whole life, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so when we talk about no choice is ever wrong, it's like, well, I hear a lot of people saying, well, I don't want to make a decision unless I know it's going to be the right one, or I don't want to make a decision unless I know it's going to be perfect. And that's where the black and white thinking, which, you know, 20 years ago, I was in that camp. I was so Miss Black or Miss White, and that's all that there is to it. And until you go through your life maybe not working out the way, going through a divorce or going through grief or a loss or something kind of biggish in your life that makes you go, oh, okay, maybe life isn't black and white. It kind of gives you a bit of a, insight into everyone's so particular about making the right, I feel like making the right choice and perfectionism is in that same camp.
Yeah. And I guess, because we all operate on different values and morals and ethics, that what's right to me would be wrong to you. But what I'll say to that, I'll only make the decision when I feel the choice is right. For me, when I hear that, it's kind of like, well, you're just wasting a bit of your life, because what's the difference in making the choice at this month compared to making the choice 6 months down the track? What would be different about your level of thinking, your level of awareness, consciousness, vibration, frequency, anything like that? You get to choose, like, I'm making it today, dip the toe in and just see what comes from that. And it could be amazing. But if we're constantly in this mentality of, but it won't be right, it won't be perfect, so I have to have it a certain way, you're closing yourself off to what could be, or what it may be meant to be. And it could be better than you ever thought. So yeah, I guess
that's right. It's fear. I think fear holds a lot of people back. Just, we all want certainty in life. We all want to know what's going to happen. And
but if you think about that, if we always knew what was going to happen, we would be complaining that we were so bored. Genuinely, because
yes, I know. I'm reflecting back on my last 43 years and thinking, if I knew what was going to happen, I think I would have got a bus ticket in the other direction a long time ago. But no, I'm joking.
But even you just saying that, you would have taken the bus ticket in a new direction. That's uncertainty. You wouldn't have known what you were getting on the other side.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Everything in life, like if we reflect back and we go, it would have changed so much. Again, I would challenge that with, but what did you gain from what you've experienced? Because you wouldn't be the same Barbara if you didn't go through all of that.
No. And I would say over the last 12 months or 18 months has really cemented to me, and especially with what I do now. I say this with a feeling that I'm glad I went through what I went through, because it makes me me, and the decisions I've made, I tell you what, have been very smart. Even though it's been a bit of a jagged, but I'm really glad that this is my life now. So yeah,
And how does it feel to land in a place where you can say that?
It's been hard work. It's good, because I think part of it too for me is being with, and I don't know if some people can relate to this, being a certain age and always wanting children, but knowing that the men that I met weren't the right ones. So I'm really somewhere. I think this is from my own teachings, because definitely not from my parents or not anyone from that I've seen close up, that the value is to have a good, strong partnership, or however that looks. It could be a friend or whatever. It doesn't have to be a male, but for me, I was never going to repeat my family cycle. And there was something really quietly in me that was like, don't just do something for the sake of it. And that was one truth for me that was really important. And I reflect back, and I'm so proud of myself for not giving into that biological need just to have the thing, if that makes sense. I don't want to talk about a child as a thing, but any woman of a certain age can relate to that, when we're hardwired at some point to feel that emotional, to care for something, or to feel clucky, or whatever that looks like. Yeah. And I think when you said to me, how does it feel, reflecting back and saying that I'm proud of where I am, I never thought there'd be a day that I'm actually okay if I don't have any children, which I'm like, I'm actually cool with it, because I've made the right decision, and whatever flows in the future is totally cool with me. Where I was always in that different negative mindset of, why hasn't happened to me yet, and there's something wrong, or it's so unfair, or and watching my age, where now I'm just like, that's one of the best decisions I've ever made, because I haven't brought a little person into the world to create a very strong toxic generational. How many generations? 1, 2, 4, 5 generations I can confidently say I've broken. So I'm really glad that I feel like I've had the brunt. It's almost like I'm the brick wall, and that's what I feel like. And I feel like the little person that I could have brought on any time from now is like, fine, happens, it happens, it doesn't. But I feel like I've been the brick wall, and physically everything has gone, like everything in my life, I've been the brick wall, and it's just big rocks and all these kind of things have been hitting it, and the walls, and I'm the kind of one in the family that's kind of like, I'm not like, I will stand strong and nothing will go past me. And even just you and I having this conversation right now is something that publicly I never would have, and be so honest about it, but also knowing that I did good, I've done right, because I could never look at that little girl in her eyes and, I want to be able to be like, yeah, I got you. Like you're going to carry on this legacy in a different way. And that is all down to how my brain thinks and what I think of myself. And that is just literally, if anyone's listening to this, I want you to have that power in you to know you've got you and you've got your own back. And I want you to listen to yourself, because you'll know.
Yeah, what an empowering place to be in for you.
I'm still learning. Oh my God. Like, please, anyone, I'll never be perfect. I screw up all the time.
But I think it's really important to acknowledge that sense of pride that you have within yourself, to actually acknowledge and be like, I'm okay at this point. And that's something that I'm so big on, that we need to find that middle ground, that point of balance where we can go, I'm okay either way. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Because what we do in that moment is we release that attachment, because the attachment is, that quote, attachment is the source of suffering. So when we're longing for something so much and we're attached to it, it becomes like, again, like the Raz, that's all we focus on. And as soon as we let that go, then we allow, I guess, what is it called? Like divine intervention to come into play and actually be like, okay, well, this is what you need for now. This is what you need then. This is what you need in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would have 10 years ago, 5 years ago, would have rolled my eyes when you said divine intervention. I would have gone, oh God, here we go. But guys,
trust in the universe.
Take it from me. I know, but I do, but I'm just reflecting back again. I know there'll be some people that I know who listens to my podcast. Some of them will be like, oh, okay.
We're talking about divine intervention again.
It's true, guys. It's true. And I still remember that card that you pulled for me too. That image has burnt into my head.
Oh, you have to remind me. What was it again?
It was a heaps of greenery, so heaps of grass, and there was a hill, and on top of the hill there was a cute little house.
Oh, yes.
A guy and a girl holding hands, with a little girl standing next to the woman, and I was like, fuck off. This is my podcast, so I'm allowed to swear. But I've had that vision for such a long time, and I can pretend I don't have that vision. I can lie to people. I can lie to my girlfriends. Like, damn it, they're going to know. But I can do all that stuff. And then when you show me that card, I actually said to you, Ash, fuck off.
I've got my tarot cards in front of me. I'm trying to remember which one it is. I'm just going to find it. But yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, now that we've kind of anchored that into your subconscious, you will do whatever means possible to make that happen and to make that a reality for yourself, because we've locked that in. We've created that awareness around it of like, oh, that would feel really nice. That would feel, was it this one? 10 of Cups?
Oh, I thought there was was it that one?
It may be that one. Let me keep looking. I think
there was a hill, and there was a house in the hill, and then the people holding hands with it. Unless I've reinterpreted it to be something else. Unless I've made up my own tarot card in my head, which could be quite possible.
May have.
That might have been the card, maybe.
Yeah, well, that one's the 10 of Cups, which is like emotional fulfillment, like happy families. You've reached the goal that you've aspired to get to. Like, it's just, that's one of my favorite cards in the deck.
Well, there can't be any others of a guy and a girl with their back to you holding hands with a kid next to them, could there?
No, that one would have been the card.
That must have been it.
No, that's not it. That's not what I have.
What?
You're like, no, that's not it. It was different.
Oh, see, I've redrawn it into my head then. Wow. Good one, Barbs. Anyway, so that's interesting. But I also would love to as we wrap up this podcast is we always talk about learning about ourselves as like an ongoing journey. Like it's something that once you learn about yourself and your thoughts and your subconscious, how your brain works and all that kind of stuff, the cool thing is you always keep learning. And I was interested to see that you went on a nice trip to Bali not too long ago, and it just looked like the most incredible time of your life. And I'd love you to share with my listeners just really briefly about what Bali means to you. And because obviously you're very, spiritual and you deal with people, you give so much energy to people. And it was nice for me to see the beautiful photos of you and you giving it back to yourself. That's what I got out of it. And that beautiful woman that taught you all that stuff and dressed you in white. And I thought, wow, that was like your full circle. I just got goosebumps. That full circle moment for you, like really honoring yourself and giving that back to you. So I'd love you to share with my listeners a little bit about you as a practitioner, like what you've done for yourself with that Bali trip and healing yourself.
Yeah. So I guess being in a service role, you do give a lot of yourself. And it's done with so much love and so much energy, because that's what I want to be doing. I want to be helping people and to, help them heal and move forward. But it does, you do, and I know that you know this, but you do reach a point where you go, oh gosh, like I need to give back to me. So I'll be honest, and I will say, I mean, my voice just changed talking about that, but
I noticed that.
yeah, it got to a point where I was burning the candle at both ends. I was seeing a lot of clients every single week, and it came to the Bali trip. I was like, okay, I really am just going to indulge in myself. And I guess this was probably the first time in my adult life that I've gone on a trip and I've kind of been like, I'm just not going to worry about how much I spend. I'm not going to worry about what I look like in a bikini. I'm just going to love how I am, love how I look, love how I feel, spend my hard-earned money. And even with my relationship, I've got a partner, we've been together for over 7 years. I even set the intention that no, it's going to feel like our honeymoon. And it was to the point where I was so clear in this vision that we got asked, I can't remember where we were, but it was a Balinese lady, and she's like, oh, are you married? Are you on your honeymoon? And we were both like, we just laughed at each other, because I said, it's so clear in my vision. We've shared that together, where we want to just treat it like we are in that loved up. And it's not that we're not. Like,
yeah.
It's just interesting to me. And even just seeing photos of myself, I was happy to have the photo taken in my bikini. Like I wasn't hiding any, rolls in the stomach or cellulite on the legs. I was just like, you know what? Like I'm just so happy that I have taken this time out and I'm here and I'm enjoying it, that I'm not going to let something like body image or relationship stress or financial stress take me away from this time. And just setting that intention at the start of the trip, like I had the most amazing holiday. And you're so right. Like I had probably a massage every single day. I got my nails done. I had a hair treatment. I had a facial. I just sat by the pool, read my book, went for walks, and ate a hell of a lot. But it was just so nourishing. And yeah, I think one of the biggest things, like I say it to people all the time, is give back to yourself. And I'm such a giver, that just being able to do that for me without any questioning of like, oh, do I deserve it? Oh, do I get to spend that amount of money on myself? I was just like, anything goes for this next 2 weeks. Like I'm allowed to give that to myself. And yeah, one of the things that I wanted to give to myself was to visit a healer in Bali. And my beautiful friend Sue, she gave me this healer's details, who doesn't see tourists. She only sees locals. And I felt very blessed to have been able to see her. And the whole experience was just phenomenal. Like we had such deep conversation with our driver. His name was Gusti, about death and spirituality and how, they perceive spirit will always return to the families, through cousins or babies or children or whatever it is. And then the experience with the healer was just, yeah, as soon as I sat in front of her, it was like, I've met you before. I know you. Like I can feel that there's something that I am familiar with. And as soon as like she asked what Aaron did, and he, like we said that he does massage, and then she asked what I did. And I think trying to explain what kinesiology is to someone who only speaks Indonesian is quite difficult. So Gusti, we were just said, oh, like healing. So we help people to heal. And she's like, healer? And she pointed to me and she's like, I'm healer. And she goes, you healer? I'm healer. We're family. And then she dressed me in white and continued with the healing. And it was just such a beautiful experience. And I did share on my Instagram a few things, but there were many other things that she said that I'll keep to myself and to keep private. But since then, like I remember because I work with my hands in kinesiology, she did say that my right hand was more powerful than my left, which is that's true. I always work with my right. So she balanced that out. And I remember looking down at my hands, and as weird as it sounds, they looked bigger. Like, oh, they just looked, and it just was a feeling like they just felt enormous. And I remember just looking at me like, this is weird. Like, what is happening? And she did something to my heart where she placed her hand on my heart, and it literally felt like an electric shock just went through my whole entire chest, and it was like burning. But yeah, like it was just one of those experiences that you'll never forget. And she did say to me towards the end, she's like, come back and I'll teach you how I heal. So I'll definitely be taking that up.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
Yeah. So if you've been to Bali, it's such a spiritual place. Like their daily blessings that they do is just, it's you can feel the energy there of how grateful they all are for everything that they have. Any time that you speak to a Balinese person, like you just look at them and they use their whole entire face, their whole entire body to greet you and to smile and to welcome you. And it's just like, you don't get that here. Like I was literally walking the dogs the other day and I was, hi, like saying hi to people just coming off the back of Bali, and they kind of go, yeah, hi. And they keep their head down and they keep walking. So it's just such like a conflict of environments. And like you think of us here, like, not many people stick to a blessing or a ritual every day. And when you do have that over there, it's just everyone's just treats everyone as equal and welcoming and loving. And yeah, if you haven't been, I highly encourage you to go. I know that to see a Balinese healer, like I think through Facebook pages, there's a few people that share them. I know through Airbnb, they do like trips that you can seek a healer through there too. You can even go to the water temples and do a blessing. But it's such a beautiful, beautiful place, and I'm glad that I was able to give myself that experience.
Yeah, but thank you for sharing that with us, because it shows people that, especially in a service-related industry, a lot of us are givers, and you do a little bit for yourself, but to really give yourself permission to be like, no, I'm actually going to, because I know if I was to go on a trip and say that, you'd be like, you would have told me the advice that just go for it, spend whatever, enjoy it. But when it comes to yourself, we always put these limitations on ourselves. Mm-hmm. And thank you for sharing how much that has shifted and changed for you as well. And just letting other people know that you can do that and it's okay. You're not selfish.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just the feeling of being in that and setting those intentions was so freeing. Like and I've held that with me since coming home. I'm just like, oh, how good is this?
Yeah, you're like you've always been like a relaxed, carefree person anyway. Like I've only met you the second time. Oh no, probably the third or fourth time I think we've talked now. But I've noticed it more in you now too, is you're so more carefree than what you were before. Like just so not reassured, but just
oh, thank you.
I think of the word, but I
can feel what you're trying to explain.
Can you just read my body language, because I can't choose the word? So just read my body language.
This is a perfect example. Like we kind of chatted before the podcast and we were like, what are we going to talk about? Oh, who knows? We'll figure it out. So
we have.
Yeah, it's just that carefree, not attached to any outcome. And that's, I think, the best way to live.
Yeah, I'm learning to do that too. So it's a good way to sign off. So if anyone is listening to this and they're like, I've got a question I want to ask Ash, or I want to do some kinesiology, where are you now based in your clinic?
Yeah. So I'm a practice called Enlighten in Armidale, Melbourne, Victoria. And I do online as well. My website is www.groundedsoulkinesiology.com. So you can have a look there. There's a lot of information on there about what kinesiology is. So if there's something that you wanted to be answered in this podcast and we didn't get to it, please feel free to message me, and I'm happy to have a chat.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the second episode on kinesiology. It's just such a treat to be able to give, for me to bridge you to the listeners and for people to be more aware of something that unless you know about it, you don't know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'll look forward
to chatting with you.
I know. It's always good. It's always fun. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and it has inspired you on your self-care journey. Please feel free to share this with a friend and subscribe over on Apple Podcast. I really love hearing your feedback. So guys, please feel free to write a review on Apple and let me know which part of this episode resonated with you the most. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about Self-Care Studio or the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, self_care_studio, or on my website, selfcarebybarbrathompson.com.au. Really look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Look after you. And I'll catch you soon. Bye!